In this video, we're going to go over the exercise number 2 in chapter 2, and in this exercise we're going to lay out the following alignment, this Road 1 alignment here. Now you can get pretty much all your information from this diagram. It has all the coordinates that you'd be using, all the bearings as well, and the curve data. But if you need to, you can go ahead and slide down and actually use the steps that we're going to do here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new file called civil geometry and then underscore the job number, and typically that's what we do out in our districts is we put all of our geometry in one file, and typically we call it civil geometry and then underscore the job number. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to switch over and we're going to do a file new. We're going to do no wizard if you get this option. For the seed file, it's going to be a 2D iProject seed file. So we're going to go to our CAD standards, seed files. We're going to go down to design English, and about 2/3 of the way down you'll see the iProject 2D Power GEOPAK, and we're going to use that as our seed file. It will be opened as read-only, which is fine because we're just copying it. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to copy, or we're actually going to call it civil underscore geometry underscore J2P0200. Again, with project-wise, what you do typically is you type it once and you copy it down to the other field here. Again, you want to make sure you're going into your Data 2 folder, so I'm just going to take a quick look, and that looks in the right location, so we're going into Data 2. And once that's all set, we can go ahead and, again, what I like to do is I put in here, I put a dash and just 2D file, so I know it's a 2D. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK to that to create the file. We're going to check in our previous file. And once that's done being created, we're going to go back and look at the exercise here. The next thing it's wanting us to do is we're going to attach our terrain model. Okay, and there's one good reason to do that, and I'll let you know about that here in a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to do attach. We're going to go out to our tools under our reference dialog. We're going to select our terrain J2P0200 existing. We're going to bring that on in, close it down, and we're going to do a fit view. And the big reason for attaching your terrain model is just to get your view in the right location of your project, because we just created that file, and our coordinates, if we would have looked at them, would have been really close to x equals 0, y equals 0, and this project's far from that location. So it just makes it a little bit easier to have your view in the same location when you're trying to lay out your alignments. Okay. Alright, now we attach that. That's good. Next thing we need to do is we need to create a new GPK using the job number 200. Okay, so to do that, we're going to go on back and we're going to click on our, actually before we do that, we're going to right click, go to user preferences, and we're just going to make sure our COGO preferences are either blank or have a path in here pointing to the same location as our active file, which is the Data 2 folder. Again, if it's blank, it will automatically use the path of the active file. So we're going to go ahead and leave it blank. We're going to click on COGO now, and for the job number we're going to type in 200. You can type in your initials for the operator code. I'm just using CU for class user. We're going to hit OK to that, and 200 doesn't exist. Do you want to create it? And we're going to say yes to that. Once it's open, I'm just going to go ahead and close it down. I just needed to create a GPK so that we can store these alignments in there. Okay. Alright. Next we're going to, in Road 1, it gives us the beginning and ending coordinates of our alignment, and it also gives us the curve data. And then next it says what we want to do is we want to use a geometry scratch to lay out this alignment. And this alignment is basically made up of a tangent, a curve, and a tangent. And so typically that's what you do, is you set it to a geometry scratch level, and once you have your alignment defined in Geometry Scratch, you then complex it and switch it to a MoDOT baseline proposed or MoDOT existing alignment. So MoDOT baseline existing or MoDOT baseline temporary. And so we're going to go back to Microstation. We're going to set up our feature definition. We're going to go to click on this down arrow. We're going to go to Design, Design Standards, Geometry, and then Geometry Scratch. The other thing we need to do is turn on this icon right here, which it says to use that as the active feature definition. Okay, let's go back to our manual. Now it says in here that once we have that set, we're going to toggle on Civil AccuDraw, and we're going to use the horizontal geometry toolbox, go into that, and we're going to use the line between points, because what we're going to do in this exercise is we know this point right here, we're going to lay out this tangent because we know the bearing as well, and then once that tangent is done, we're going to lay out this other tangent down here. We know these coordinates. We're going to lay out a line up here. We're going to make those two lines cross, and once they cross, we know the PI point of this curve, and then we can lay that curve in there, and we are given the curve data as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to our horizontal geometry. We're going to go line between points. We're also going to turn on our Civil AccuDraw, and we're going to use the XY option. And so you can see on my cursor, it's asking for an X and Y. And so again, the X and Y of our start point is given in the alignment diagram, and it's also given in our exercise here. And so our X value that we're going to type in is going to be 1676792.0050. I'm going to enter to lock it in, and once I enter it, I'm going to move my cursor around to see if that makes sense on this diagram. It sure does. It's falling within my terrain model, which is a good sign. And then for the Y, it wants the value of 1260393.1372. Again, I'm going to lock that in, and that point should fall somewhere within my terrain model, and it does. And so once that's locked in there, I'm going to accept that location, and you can see I'm starting to draw my line. And now I'm going to go back over to Civil AccuDraw. I'm going to go to a different option. I'm going to go to distance and direction. Okay. Now for the direction, I'm given the direction, but for the distance, I don't know what that is. I'm just going to make this line long enough so that it crosses the tangent coming up from down below. So I'm going to get out of the distance field and place my focus on the direction. And the direction that we're given for the direction back is southeast, and that's south 24 degrees 20 minutes east. So I'm going to go ahead and type in south 24, and then I'm going to put a colon in between that, and then it's 20, and then I'm going to go east, and then I'm going to lock that in. And you can see that it's locked in. I move my cursor, it's locked in. Now for the distance, I'm just going to go some distance. I'm going to go beyond my terrain model, and I'm just going to left click. So that's the first bearing. Now we're going to place the second bearing, and we're going to work our way up from that known point. So we're going to go back to our Civil AccuDraw. We're going to come out here, and for this point, the X value is 167.902.6087. I'm going to lock that in. You can see that X value is falling within the terrain model, which is good. Now my Y value is going to be 1255759.8897. I'm going to enter that in and lock it. And again, that point's falling within my terrain model, which is a good sign again, so I'm going to left click to accept it. Now I'm going to put in this bearing, just like we did before, but I need to switch my option, Civil AccuDraw option. And again, I don't know the distance, so I'm going to tab out of that and go down to my direction field. I do know the direction. It's given to us in a southeasterly direction, but since we're kind of going in the northwest direction, we need to swap that to a northwest. So I'm going to type in north, and the direction is 52 degrees. I'm going to put a colon, 30, and then it's west. I'm going to lock that in. Again, once I lock it in, I move my cursor around and you can see it's locked in. Now again, I'm just going to go place a line out there, or a tangent line that's just beyond the previous line that I just placed. So I'm going to left click there. And so there are my two tangents for my Road 1 alignment. Okay. Let's go back to the exercise. And that was pretty much step number 11 there. And step number 12, it tells us to deactivate Civil AccuDraw, and then we're going to store a curve, using the simple arc tool, with a degree of curve of 1 degree, 45 minutes. So let's go do that real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to deactivate Civil AccuDraw. We're going to go over to the horizontal geometry tools. We're going to go down to the 4th row, 5th icon over, simple arc. And in here, it's asking for us to locate the two elements. We're going to pick the first element, we're going to pick the second element, and now it's trying to place a radius value in there. But what I have is a degree of curve, and so to do a degree of curve, you got to type D, and then you type in 1 degree, 45 minutes. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to convert that into a radius. Enter that. There's the radius for 1 degree, 45 minutes. And when you're happy with that, you just left click, and we're going to trim both back like so. Alright, let's go on back. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select Create Complex Element, and we're going to turn the individual elements into one complex element. It looks like we're going to still keep it in a geometry scratch feature definition, and so let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we're going to come over to this tool right here, complex by element, and again the stationing is going to go from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to pick this first element, and I want to make sure that little arrow is pointing down. Now on my settings in my tool, I have it set to automatic, and again my feature definition is using the active geometry scratch, and I'm going to check back on the exercise just to see if we need to call it Road 1, and that's what they want us to do, is call it Road 1. So where it says name here, I'm going to call it Road 1. Okay, so again, I'm going to select that top element, making sure my arrow is pointing down. I'm going to select it, everything highlights, now I just have to accept it. Okay, so now if I select that element, you can see it's all one element. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply stationing, which is the next step, and it's this icon right here. It's going to apply a start stationing. When I click on that, it's going to locate the element. It's going to ask me where to start the stationing, and typically we start it at the very beginning of the alignment. And for the start stationing, I'm going to type in 0 + 0, 0. Okay. Next, we're going to do is we're going to switch our annotation scale to 1 inch equals 50. We're going to change the feature definition of this element. And so the way to do that, you can do it a couple different ways. The way we're going to do it is we're going to just click on the element itself. We're going to bring up its properties, and where it says feature definition in here, we're going to change it to the MoDOT baseline proposed. And so we're going to close down the design standards. We're going to go into drafting standards. We're going to go into plan, alignments, and the middle one there is the MoDOT baseline proposed. Now when you switch that, it's going to ask for a GPK, and remember we just created that 200 GPK to store these alignments in, so we're going to select job 200. We're going to hit OK, and it's going to push it out to the GPK and then push it through the DNC manager and plot our stationing and tick marks. Okay, Now what some people do is sometimes this text gets in the way, and so what they'll do is they'll move that text out further. So if you want to, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. I think all you have to do is put in the selection set, and let's get it all in the selection set here. There we go. Now the one thing I don't want to get in the selection set is this terrain model, which it's kind of doing, so I'm going to minus that out if I can. I just did. And I'm going to use the move tool, Microstation move tool. So I'm going to come over, and my move tool is right there. I click there, and I'm just going to slide it out a little bit further so it doesn't get in the way of my edges of pavement. Okay, so that's all there is for the Road 1 exercise. Oh, sorry, we do have one other thing we want to do. We want to run a geometry report, and to do that, it's real simple. Just click on the alignment and bring up the heads up tools, and we're going to open up the horizontal geometry report. And again, this is the default report that it comes up with. Again, you can modify which default report you want to use by just right clicking and set as default for geometry. Again, if this format is not exactly what you're looking at, again, you can go to the tools, pull down to format options, and adjust these format options. So that's all there is now to the laying out of the Road 1 exercise. The next video goes into laying out the Route 63 exercise.